Hey friends, it's me, Elizabeth. We are starting a brand new series called Vibes. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. And today we're talking about one word. And I want to know what comes to your mind when you think of this word, control. Probably nothing good because most of us don't have positive vibes when we think about that word. Usually because none of us want to be controlled and none of us want to be told what to do. And I would think that at your age, you probably feel that more than anyone else between driving restrictions and curfews and attendance policies, athletic policies. And then there's always that one teacher that wants to control when everyone goes to the restroom, like your toddlers. And so I'm sure that it feels super annoying to feel like everywhere you turn, people have control over you or are trying to control you. And I think most of us would agree that we don't love being under someone else's control and being told what to do. We all want to do what we want to do when we want to do it, and that's kind of part of being human. But here's the thing, as much as we resist the idea of being controlled, all of us are, every single one of us. We would probably never say it this way, but in one way or another, we are controlled in some way by our emotions, our moods, our vibes. And if you've ever been around a toddler and take away their cookie or ask them to share a toy, then you know the bad vibes come up very quickly. But the thing is, it's not just a child thing, it's a teenage and adult thing too. I am sure you have seen adults lose their temper or let their emotions get the best of them. Probably more than a few times, I'm sure. But also, I'm guessing that you can remember a few times that you've also let your emotions get the best of you. Maybe you're having an argument with a parent and you lost your temper in the middle of it and you ended up getting grounded. Or maybe you said some terrible things about another person because you let jealousy take a hold of your emotions, and then you thought, why did I even say that? It didn't even sound like me. Sometimes our emotions take control, and when that happens, we don't always make the best decisions. In fact, before we go any further, take just a minute and think about one negative emotion that seems to have the most control over you. Whenever you feel it, it almost always seems to take over. What is the one emotion that shows up the most often, maybe without you even realizing it? It could be anger, anxiety, jealousy, loneliness, maybe guilt. The list goes on. We definitely all have one. But chances are we've learned in some ways how to kind of monitor the emotion. So we can monitor our feelings and emotions to a certain degree, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But is monitoring really the best solution? What if there was a better way? What if there was a solution beyond just monitoring those? So one thing that's super cool is that so much of what Jesus teaches is for everyone, whether you consider yourself a Christian or not. And he invites people to do something that goes beyond just monitoring our emotions. What's cool is that if what he really says is true, then it gives us the potential to be free. And isn't that what we all want anyways, is freedom? We want to be free from being controlled by anyone or anything, including our emotions. And so it seems like Jesus is offering a solution to do that. So the passage we're looking at is in Mark, and it begins with Jesus and his 12 disciples, which is like his 12 closest friends. And in the story, the Pharisees, who are known for being very religious, and the teachers of the law, who were also known for being religious, they asked Jesus a question. Why don't your disciples live according to the tradition of the elders instead of eating their food with defiled hands? In other words, they're saying, why don't your disciples wash their hands before they eat? Which seems pretty gross, right? Especially right now in the pandemic. But we have to remember that at this time there was very little water. And so even when there was water, you didn't want to just pour it all over your hands. But for the Pharisees, it bothered them for religious reasons. And so they were accusing Jesus of breaking the law of the elders, which was a law that was passed down by word of mouth. So there was also a written law which Moses received from God. And then there was the law that was passed down by word of mouth. And so it's tricky because the oral law is in conflict with the written law. So kind of confusing. And so Jesus answers them in sort of a genius way because he doesn't come directly at them, which I love. Some of my favorite verses are when the Pharisees try to trick Jesus. And Jesus always has the absolute best responses. So he quotes the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. And in case that wasn't totally clear, Jesus sums it up this way. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. In other words, Jesus is basically saying, you are not leading people to God. You are looking to make power plays that keep you in control and keep other people under your control. And that is not how God works. And so Jesus continues. Listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside of a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. Meaning the fact that because the disciples didn't wash their hands doesn't make God mad at them. God is so much bigger and better than that. And back in the day, God gave the law because he had the people's best interest in mind. God wasn't trying to keep himself happy by controlling and manipulating their behavior. And so Jesus is basically saying, don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? It's kind of like a biology lesson. What goes in must come out. But what comes out of our mouth, those are the things that defile God, which basically just means that those are the things that put us in conflict with God. Eating the wrong thing doesn't put us in conflict with God, but we are in conflict with God when the words that come out of our mouths are hurting the people that God loves, which is everyone. And that's kind of the center of Jesus's teaching. God loves everyone. He loves you. He loves your neighbor. He loves the person in front of you, beside you, behind you. He loves the people at your school. He loves in your neighborhood, and so on and so on. I think you get the idea. God loves people. He loves all people. In fact, you could say that everything Jesus really taught us centers around that idea. How we love God by loving people. But we're not just going to stop there, because when Jesus talks about what puts us in conflict with God, he talks about the source of our offensive words and deeds is inside of us. And so that's the emotions that we try to constantly monitor and control. And so this is what Jesus says. For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. And here's how this is connected to what we're going to be talking about for the next couple weeks. The negative emotions that we try to monitor, the anger that we don't seem to have control of, the FOMO that gets us in trouble and causes regret, or maybe the fear that we look at and wish we could just chill out of it. And so it comes from our internal environments, our emotions. And the reality is that emotions are not always bad. They're a part of being human, and they help us figure out what is right and what's wrong. But when they control us and make us do things that we don't want to do, and they keep us from living the full life that Jesus intends for us, then the emotions aren't really helpful, and we need to figure out a way and rethink how we're handling those emotions. To do that, I just want us to remember one simple truth, and that's that because of Jesus, emotions don't have to be the boss of you. Jesus can give us the strength to overcome that emotion that's trying to control you. So it's important for all of us to learn to name our emotions and learn how to take control of our emotions. Because when our emotions have control over us, it can cause a lot of hurt to ourselves and to others. And so 2 things that I want you to try. The first thing is just to think about the top 1 or 2 emotions that you have the hardest time controlling. Kind of write those down and be familiar and aware of those. And then number 2 is start checking in with yourself. So at the end of the day, just kind of reflect on the day, ask, how am I really doing? And as you look back on the day, I want you to pay attention to the emotions that were a big part of it. So then you can kind of ask yourself, were they positive? Were they negative? If they were negative, are you still holding on to them? And what caused you to feel them? Was it a person or situation? So you can kind of reflect on that and be more aware of those emotions, and hopefully really learn to name those emotions you're experiencing. The feelings we hold on to overflow into the lives of others, and we weren't made to ignore emotions. If we ignore them, they just come back stronger than ever and still control us. And God didn't create us not to feel. Feeling is good, even the difficult stuff. We just have to figure out what to do next. And if you're a Jesus follower, this is even more important because emotions weren't made to be the boss of us. Jesus is a way better boss of us. And how do I know that? Well, in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Another time Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." In other words, Jesus is a way better boss than any vibes or emotions we have. He's worth listening to when it comes to how we handle the emotions that we do have. And if you follow him, you'll find that out for yourself. And remember that because of Jesus, emotions don't have to be the boss of us. So imagine if this became a reality. What if you were confident that the emotions and moods and vibes that were controlling you are no longer the boss of you? How different would your life be? And so this week, I want you to be real with your emotions with someone, and I think you'll be glad that you did.